looking at a situation where the league could get done sooner rather than later. That's what we're all hoping. Arsenal's latest sort of less than impressive result gave us another little stretch in our lead and made the points total that's required even less. We have Leicester at the weekend. But just before we go and look at what is still to be done, just to get a review, Jan, on what you thought of the last outing, because it was quite frustrating in a way, if we're being perfectly honest, that West Ham win. It was the Jimmy Greaves game of two halves kind of thing. Felt a little bit comfortable watching the first half because we looked good. There's some decent stuff getting done. Second half, not so much, and it felt like we were hanging on a bit, and the last chance of the game goes to them, and that sort of thing. What did you make of the outing as a whole? Is it kind of typical that that's going to be the case when the tension is where it is, or were you hoping we would sort of sweep away opposition just at least one of these weeks so we could feel like that was the way the title was nearly there, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just don't think that's where we're at the moment. You know, I don't think we're at that where we're going to produce like we did. And it's still my two favourite performers of the season were Real Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen. And I don't think that's where we're at the moment. We're at a different stage, but we're still winning. You know, we won 5 of the last 6 league games, so there's not a problem in that. And we've just had to find something slightly different than what we haven't been asked to produce early on in the season, which is find a way of winning. So first half, as you say, we gave the ball to Mo. He got on with it. Gave the young left back a really, really torrid time. Second half, we've got to give it to Mo. We didn't play particularly well. Maybe we looked a little bit leggy again. And it is this thing, once that creeps into your game, it's very, very difficult to kind of find your energy again. So was it a great performance? No, it wasn't, because we've seen great performance early on in the season. So it wasn't. But as I said before, we won 5 of the last 6. Now we go Leicester and Spurs, 2 teams who can't defend. You know, so it kind of looks like these games are going to do it for us, Trevor. Downey. I know you're still a bit, you know what I mean, but trust me, Trevor, it's okay.
I'll lean into your reassurance as we get on in the show, but just just to take what we could out of West Ham as well. What I thought was really interesting was that Slot said afterwards, look at all the wins that we've had over the season. And it was basically aimed at people like me who were making comments about I'd like to see us win big. He said, like, none of the games that we've won have been comfortable wins or big wins that we just win by the odd goal, or we win by a goal, or, you know, maximum 2 or whatever. And that's absolutely the case. And it's a weird contrast, something that we've been getting used to all year. But when it results in Liverpool being clear at the top, I think everyone can get their head around it. I mean, again, just to draw on your own experience, you've been part of all sorts of different setups over the years. Teams who maybe go out and blitz early on, teams who just dominate the ball all the way through matches, teams who chase the result and then sit back. That characteristic of the way that Arne Slot approaches the game, and the contrast to what we've been used to with Klopp, where a few games a season we will absolutely destroy teams 7-6, 7-0. It's just something we've gotten used to, even the very best or highest level. What do you make of that in terms of something that, do you enjoy the way that we play now? Can you enjoy a nice 2-1 win? You know, you don't lean into the fan stuff as much, and you have the experience of having been there in teams. So what do you make of that, of the contrast between the ways of winning?
I don't think our identity is as clear as it was under Jurgen Klopp. There's not a Liverpool fan who didn't know what we tried to achieve with every single game when Klopp was our manager. That hasn't been so clear this year, because the manager is quite prepared to let us play in various structures. You know, whereas Klopp was always, this is how we play, and if it's not working, I want more of the same. Whereas Arne has done subtle changes during the game. So our identity can be from game to game slightly more difficult to really pin down that this is what we want to do. This is how we play today, isn't it? But I just think that, and although there hasn't been as many 3, 4, and 5, I still think that when you compare Liverpool to Arsenal, Liverpool have only failed to score 2 or more goals in 4 Premier League games this season. So that means that even if the opposition score 1, we normally get a minimum of 2. Yeah, Arsenal, Trevor, have had 15. They've had 15 matches where they've scored less than 2 goals. That's a massive difference, isn't it? You know, you look at them Arsenal results and you think, well, you put Arsenal up to all but 4 games scoring at least 2 goals, they'd probably have another 10 points. So that's been another, that our attacking output, although it hasn't been like Jurgen Klopp and we haven't chased it in the same way, it's still what the manager feels. We need 2 goals in every game, yeah, and that's how we set up, isn't it? And once we get that 2 goal, our identity kind of changes again, doesn't it? So yeah, it's what makes it really interesting, isn't it? That there is less and less of these 3, 4, and 5 nils. There's more of these sort of where we just get it over the line with a little tactic. We put somebody on as a substitute. We shut the shop down, isn't it? So that's how I view it anyway.
Yeah, the contrast is so profound. I think a lot of people have difficulty with it, but when the results come in, you don't care. That tends to be the way. And at this stage of the season, when the title is there to be won, it's the only thing that matters is the actual win as opposed to the nature of it. You mentioned Arsenal. I wanted to ask you about them because we've obviously seen the Champions League stuff happening over the last couple of nights, and it can stick in the craw a little bit that Liverpool aren't there for sure. Especially when you see someone doing well and pushing on towards a potential final or semi-final at least. And Arsenal are one such team, and I don't think anyone would have called that result over 2 legs at all. I saw both games, I think, sort of pronouncedly better and well worth the win. Not many people have seen that coming. And it makes me sort of feel like there's a chance that they might really have, their names in this pot. I wonder about that. I genuinely do. When you see a couple of results like they've had, and, they're going to have tough opposition again in the semi-final. So if they get it, it'll have been well earned. Do you see in them a different sort of freedom in their European play or something like that? That maybe is it that the pressure is off with the league situation? What is it that has them able to put in a show like that and rack up goals in the way that they did over the 2 legs of that quarterfinal? Do you have a feel for them going forward in the competition?
I don't know. I think the 4 semi-finalists are really interesting. I think they, in their own rights, have all got something that allows them to potentially win the Champions League. In terms of Arsenal going into the semi-final, they'll still be without Gabriel, the centre-half, who's been their best centre-half this season. They'll still be without a recognised number 9. But I'm glad you said this thing about there appears to be a bit more freedom in Arsenal's European games. So they played 12 European games. They've had 3 3-0 wins at home. They've scored 5 in Lisbon. They've scored 7 in Eindhoven. I think what happens in the European games, contrary to what happens when, let's say, Everton go to the Emirates and put 11 men behind the ball, that's when Arsenal struggle. I think in all their Champions League games, the opposition, maybe apart from when they played Inter Milan earlier in the season, have all had a go. And I think Arsenal quite enjoyed that. Having said all of that, I think PSG right now is probably the best team in Europe. They played the second leg at home against Arsenal. And obviously you saw PSG play at home against Liverpool when we somehow won 1-0. I don't know if you saw them play at home against Aston Villa, where they were even more impressive. So that's my big worry for Arsenal. Against Aston Villa, PSG had 355 successful passes in the final third. 355 in the final third. That, Trevor, is another level of brilliance because you're under pressure non-stop because they're in your final third playing successful passes, 355 off them. That is another level, that, Trevor. So never mind, it's one thing Arsenal are good at. It's shutting down space. It's being organised. The 2 wide men work really hard, get back in position. I just wonder whether anyone can cope with that type of brilliance in that final third of the pitch. I very much doubt it.
It's a great point. It's a really good point. And someone made a good point as well about Real last night and watching the game. I know you were watching that game and at that game. Whose bright idea was it to think that Vinicius and Mbappe, two lads who really don't contribute to that team structure? It's the contrast with PSG. People said like, okay, Mbappe and Neymar together in a team is not a great idea for the idea of unity. And now we can see what a team working for each other looks like. Incredibly exciting going forward. You mentioned that. That's, as you said, that level of dominance to play so many passes in the opposition half. Tremendous stuff. But we see what a team they are. And we've seen the evolution in them as a team, not just the Galactico thing, but an actual team with a team philosophy. What did Real start to drink their own Kool-Aid, do you think, a little bit, in terms of saying we'll just sign all the best players and we'll be fine? Because it just looked like a very disjointed sort of a setup, that they didn't have enough about them to really carry that threat to Arsenal, who with the best will in the world are a good team, but you would like to think that lot in their place would have been going hell for leather, and it was quite a shock to see how ineffective they were.
So obviously they got a lot of great players, Real Madrid, but I think they got a little bit carried away again in that, you remember the Galacticos, when they decided to go for the Galacticos and they just simply signed all the best players in the world. They didn't address their problems in the summer. I'm looking at them defensively and thinking you needed defensive reinforcement, but more than anything, they needed a central midfield player after Toni Kroos retired, and they needed somebody in there who could control that. So they failed to do all of that. Also against Arsenal yesterday at home, and they've had 8 days to prepare for this game. And the plan that they came up with was crosses. They put 42 crosses into Arsenal's box. Now, there's one thing that Arsenal's two centre halves can do, is hit the fucking ball away. You know what I mean, Trevor? So it just didn't make any sense whatsoever. Didn't address their problems, but they lost 5-1. That's a lot. And Arsenal missed a penalty, and the goal was a gift. I mean, the goals between the two of them were quite scary. Vinicius Jr. sulking because he's no longer the main man. He never got his Ballon d'Or. Mbappe is the biggest star. Mbappe is playing central. He doesn't want to play central. He wants to play on the left. Jude Bellingham is playing in behind. When he looks up and wants to attack the space, there's no space for him to attack because Kylian Mbappe stands centrally as a central striker. And so they've got one or two problems, but they'll get a new coach. Carlo Ancelotti is a legend within the game, isn't he? He's a great footballer. He's a great manager. I just think that I don't want to call him a dinosaur because he's not, and I think he's won the Champions League 6 out of the last 11. I just think that with this group of players now at Real Madrid, you need to do more work with them on the training ground, to give him a base to play from. And he doesn't do that. He kind of just goes. I don't know when he comes with the badge, Trevor. The Real Madrid badge, the arrogance and entitlement. Because all we've listened to in the last 8 days is, 90 minutes at the Bernabeu is a long time, and this is what we're going to do, and then they turn up and produce that. So it isn't always enough, Trevor. You can't always hide behind the badge and behind the stadium and whatever. Sometimes you have to look at your team and go, we need to do more work with these, or we need this type of players and whatever it is. So it'd be interesting to see what they do in terms of possibly a new coach and what they do in terms of recruitment. And while we're at it, and because of the uncertainty over Carlo Ancelotti's future and whatever,